has been there for you during the most challenging times of our lives. As an artist collaboration, we've given shape and depth to some of the most complicated topics of our time, making them easily accessible for those who seek to understand. We've given voice and space to the stories that often go ignored. Please take a moment to consider being a patron, make a donation, or join Rockfin. Thank you. Well, hello.
Hello, hello.
We're back with another pull quote. And this time we are live today. So if you are watching us on our various platforms, YouTube, Facebook, Rockfin, Twitter, please feel free to make comments. Rockfin, we won't see your comments, but YouTube and Facebook, we will.
Right.
And
you want to scoot over a little? You seem a little off.
Am I a little off camera?
I'll give you some more room.
Okay, how about
there
that?
We go.
All right, yeah, we'll get our studio all set up here. How are you today?
Pretty good. Yeah. I'm really, really thrilled and honored that Stacey has agreed to come onto our platform. You want to give her a little?
I'll read the little intro that I have here. Stacey Adams, also known as EF Parent, is a Western Pennsylvania mom who began to research schools and education after her children entered her local school district. She is now exposing the disturbing discoveries of corporate-backed, state-sponsored behavioral modification through educational curricula and corporate agendas that are exploiting children as revenue streams through DNA collection via COVID testing in schools all over the country. We met Stacey through our friend and previous pull quote guest, Kimberly Wegland. Wygand. Oh my God, I put an L in there too.
That's okay.
You can follow Stacey's work on YouTube and I believe Facebook as well, but let's bring her on and we'll find out more. Welcome to Pull Quote, Stacey Adams. Hi.
Hi, guys.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you guys today?
Good.
Great. And we're just so honored and thrilled that you are here to have a chat with us. We know that you've done incredible research, and we were so thrilled when our friend Kimberly with Cracked Egg introduced you to us and said, you guys should really talk to her. She follows, the research that she has done is in line with what, you guys have discovered and what you've put to, to your video essays. So we were just so happy to meet another Allegheny County resident that is on the right side of history. Yay!
Yeah, Kim's amazing. She's been a huge support and just really wanting the truth to be out there. She's such a great person inside and out, and I love Kim.
Yeah, good lady, good people over there. And if you're in Allegheny County, head on over to the Cracked Egg and throw her some business
for sure.
Yeah. What's going on?
I just want to say today we're featuring a different format. Stacey's going to walk us through her presentation through a PowerPoint presentation. So don't run away because it's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
And we'll talk a little bit, in between as things come up. But I think, mostly what we're going to be doing is a presentation. But you had a few questions.
Right.
So I'm sorry.
So
I didn't mean to
before we
interrupt
begin with the presentation, I wanted to get your origin story. I wanted to find out how you went from being, just a mom, working, doing your business, and then all of a sudden you went into these deep dive research modes regarding, the DNA and all that. So tell us what happened. What brought you to that point?
Sure. Just like I probably think the majority of people, I was very much asleep to a lot of what was going on in education, just in general. In fact, I never even voted before. COVID-19 hit, obviously, with everybody, and I was out of work for 3 months. So that left a lot of time on my hands, and things started not making sense to me. So I started digging more into political stuff, bigger things that weren't really tangible, we'll say. It was just kind of, more conspiracy theory, we'll say. And what I kind of just, let it go over the summer. Well, I started through my digging through everything. I found in August of 2021, I found a letter on the Pennsylvania Department of Education. It was a message to schools where it talked about the COVID-19 testing that they wanted to bring into schools. There was a contract signed with a company called Ginkgo Bioworks through the Department of Health for $87 million. So I was definitely concerned about that. I started, reaching out to the superintendents, to some state reps, trying to get some information on it. I really didn't go full throttle with it, digging deep into the educational agendas until the masking happened. At first, our school was mask optional. And then when they mandated it, the way the school district treated my children, I was appalled. I said, there's no way schools would be this hard on kids or denying medical exemptions if there wasn't something attached to it, whether it be money, whether it be they have something over them. I didn't know what it was. So that's where really, my kids were threatened with, my daughter especially was threatened with in-school suspension for improper mask wearing. And I'm like, what is that? I'm like, half of the school doesn't wear the mask properly. As soon as you touch it, that's improper mask wearing. So, and and my daughter's a straight A student, National Junior Honor Society, just very, very much involved with the school. And she got treated, and so did my son, got treated horribly. And like I said, I said, well, if you're willing to go those lengths as educators and administrators and school boards, and your job is there to protect the children and their rights, then what is attached to this of why you would do this so bad, or why you would treat them so bad? So that started my deep dive and everything.
Yeah. What age group is your daughter?
They're middle school ages.
Okay.
So 6th and 8th grade.
Okay. Yeah. So that, man, that's a tough time anyway, tough age group anyway. And there's peer pressure. Now you've got the school imposing this stuff on them as well. That's really harsh.
So
yeah, it was very tough.
It sounds like your first introduction into this was because you were a concerned parent, and you went to your superintendent, you went to the school district, and you said, none of this makes any sense. Why are this is very abusive. What is going on? And their ultimate response to you was
just like everybody else is dealing with. No transparency. They really didn't show concern. Questions don't get answered. It's just pretty much the same as everybody else is experiencing, which that kind of struck me as odd too, is that you have this agenda that is not just in my school and not just in my county, but it's nationwide, the exact same agenda. Exactly. Which you have to have some critical thinking skills where you're like, wait a second. I thought our board had control over what we did in our school district, but if they're doing the exact same as the school district that's, in the next state or across the state, then there has to be some organized information, organized plan that they're implementing for these masking policies, which I'm finding out now through Right to Knows that some people very generously are sharing with me that it was very organized.
Right. So that I'm really glad you said that, because that is very key to the way that this whole operation has been constructed and taken place. When you see such continuity, you use that term, which is really important. When you see the rollout of this and it's all done at the same time, it feels like a military exercise, but it's also very corporate. It's very corporate. And so the response that you got from the school district and the superintendent, which was really no response at all, is also a very corporate response, and which tells you, as our friend Frida mentioned in the chat, that it always comes down to money.
Follow the money.
Exactly. Follow the money, which brings us to your presentation and Ginkgo Bioworks and all of the research that you've done, which is why we're bringing you on.
Tell us a little bit about Ginkgo Bioworks, just briefly, before you get into your presentation.
Sure. So Ginkgo Bioworks has has a program called Concentric by Ginkgo, and it's K through 12 COVID-19 testing that they want to bring into the school districts. Governor Wolf sent out a letter, a notice that we had gotten, which I'll go over more. I'll show you where I got it in the presentation, but it was $338 million from from the CDC in order to, stop help prevent the spread of COVID-19, track, trace, contact tracing and all that stuff. And out of that 338 million, 87 million went to Ginkgo Bioworks. Now, I was like, that's a lot of money. And then you have to convince these schools to sign on. So that's where it was little crazy. And I did ask my school district, and they said they have no plans on doing it. But my concern is mandates. So just like they mandated the mask because it was optional, just like this is optional right now, can they mandate this as well? And they can. And there's the Secretary of Health at the time was Allison Beam when this all took place. She did put in, it was, they love to loosely word things. So, it can or cannot be, but I mean, it was pretty indicative that there's a strong possibility that they could mandate this.
Okay.
And as we know, mandates are not laws, and they're usually just edicts coming from a source that doesn't necessarily have the right to do that in the first place. But because they say they can, people believe it and they follow suit.
Right. So this is where you're the purpose for you doing this exercise comes in, is because you're very concerned about it going from a choice to a mandate.
Correct.
But
I'm still even concerned for the choice, because I don't think parents are understanding when they sign those consent forms what they're truly signing. And I'll go over their privacy policies in the presentation to explain to parents that you're signing your kid up for basically research.
Right.
And it's not transparent. And the schools so there's 726 schools, not districts, individual schools so far that have signed on. And I will tell you, when I looked a couple months ago, it was 400. So they are growing, and there are more schools. ESSER funds are attached to this. Again, they're incentivizing schools to take it on. They're incentivizing parents to sign their kids up. So it's very much a concern that I'd rather be on the offense with this than being on the defense like we were with the masks.
Right.
Yeah,
get
good
ahead
point.
of this. Yeah.
That is such a good point. I love it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we'll let you set up your sharing, and then we can go into that.
Okay.
And for anybody who's joining us today, please share this, get the word out. This is really important stuff.
Okay. All right. I'm going to bring this up on screen.
Okay.
And you now have the floor. I will expand this so that we can see just that, and we'll go from there.
Okay. Right. And everybody can see it well.
Yeah, I think so.
It looks like it.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is just the presentation that I've been doing either on Zooms or in person for people, for small groups. I've done like Moms for Liberty. I've done just small groups, and I'm willing to do this to ask or answer questions. So anybody can reach out. I can give you the information, because the important thing is I want people talking about this. I want it to be in the mainstream just as much as masks and vaccines are. It's very curious to me that it's not. So so we'll talk, and I'm going to explain Ginkgo Bioworks and how they're collecting the DNA of our kids, and they're using the schools to do so. So we're going to go ahead and go through this. Okay. So Ginkgo Bioworks, it's called the Organism Company. And so they talk about DNA, and that they can read and write it to program cells like they program computers. So this is our DNA they're talking about.
Stacey, somebody just asked in the chat if you could make the slide the full frame.
It is full frame on mine.
Okay, and it's full frame now. Thank you for that, Zach.
Well, the images on the left are the slides.
Okay, I think it's good.
Yeah.
Zach, thank you for that feedback. Let us know if it's working out for you. Okay.
All right. I'm sorry, Stacey. Go on.
No, that's okay. No, I would rather people be able to see this, so that's good. Okay, so this is just on their homepage. It's biology by design, and that biology is the most advanced manufacturing technology on the planet. We program cells to make everything from food to materials to therapeutics. I'll get into this a little bit later, but this is bigger than just testing in our schools. They want to alter the biology of our soil, of our medicines. So they have their hand in, the cookie jar. They have it in every aspect. They have a pretty good line of defense of how they want to alter biology.
Right. Okay. Yeah. That is horrifying.
Correct. It is very much so. Okay. So if people want to give them a call, they can just dial 1-877-HACK-DNA.
Wow. Okay.
That's on their webpage. You just scroll all the way to the bottom and you can find that information.
Let me put that into the chat. It's 1-877
HACK-DNA.
HACK.
Yeah.
DNA. There you go.
All right.
Did it go through?
Yeah, it go through.
Good. Okay. So here is the program with the schools. It's how to test every kid in K through 12 schools with classroom polling. Concentric by Ginkgo is the program. If you go to my YouTube, I put all the links at the bottom in my descriptions, so everybody can go and read all this information themselves. I try to pick apart and pull things just to explain or to show people the concern, but you can definitely go through and read it yourself. So this is what classroom polling testing is. So they take a class. It costs about $6 for one test for 30 kids. It says from 5 to 25 swabs. And so for $6, you can test 25 kids. They all go into, like as you see here.
Hey, Stacey, just a question. We're still seeing the first slide.
I know. Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Which one?
We're seeing your cover slide.
The DNA collection.
Really? I'm going through it. Oh, no.
There we go.
Okay, that's number 2.
There's number 2.
Okay.
And then now you're going on into the cost of the testing itself, right? Which is probably on slide 3. Is that correct?
Yeah. What do you guys see now?
Right now we're seeing slide 2 in the big frame. So if you could take us to slide 3.
Let me just, let's see if that works better.
Now we're seeing slide 2 still. So
okay, let me, I had you on the full screen. Let me just see if I can do it from this.
So you just choose it, right? Do you choose the screen?
Yeah, we're seeing something different than what she's seeing.
Okay. Okay, hold on. Let me see here. What do you guys see there?
We still see slide 2, which has got the 1-800 or the 1-877 hack DNA, the contact us page.
Okay.
So
you guys
see, can you choose slide 3 on the side panels there? There you go. Yeah. So now we're looking. So every time you move forward, just make sure you click those slides on the side.
Okay. What do you see now? Does it say how to test every kid in K through 12 schools?
We see the one where it says it's $15 for rapid antigen test.
Okay. Yeah, it's not letting me do it in presenter view. So let me see what I can do for you here.
So Zach did say click presentation mode, but you're saying, or at the bottom to click presentation mode. And it should show the full frame of the current slide.
On the...
I think it's the bottom right, down by the volume control. There's some icons.
On your...
on the PowerPoint.
Right.
I think that one.
Thank you for your input, Zach. Thank you for that.
Because I had it on presenter view. What do you see now?
We still see page 3. Where it says the students from the classrooms with the positive pool results can be individually tested.
She can click presentation mode at the bottom and should too. Yeah, that's what I was on, Zach. I had it in presentation mode. So my screen shows the full screen, but it's not for some reason. Hold on, let me.
I think it's just every time she clicks it, it pops up.
Yeah.
So I think that if you as you move on into the presentation and you click each screen, it'll come up on our end. That seems to be, that.
Well, it's not. Here, let me see if I can do this. Use presenter view. No, that's not it. I'm sorry, everyone.
That's okay. This is good. This is good because we're gonna figure this out together. So
yeah. Use slideshow.
Technology.
What do you guys still see the same screen?
So now you're back on screen number 1 because you've chosen it in the
okay, yeah.
Now you're
okay.
back. Yeah.
Let me see if I can just do this through here. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we had this all figured out.
Well, these things happen.
Yeah, you never know with technology. Even though we did test.
Right. So
we did. Yeah, I think whenever I go to screen, because I can share it entire screen. Oh wait, hold on.
So if you click the
hold on, wait, let me see if this works. No, that's.
I think if she just
wants to share your contents of your screen window. Entire screen. Let me see if this works better. Okay, what do you see? Okay.
So we see it.
We see the second page.
The second page.
But we also see your left-hand side.
Yeah, it's not letting me share the whole screen, so I have to figure this out because I have.
It's still very big. So
it's fine. All we need. So if you can navigate from screen to screen on your side, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because the only thing that I have is and let me see if I can stop sharing. Sorry, guys. Let me just try this because it's the only thing is that I would have to.
Stacey joined.
Okay, let's see here.
When I go to, because I have things layered on each other.
Okay.
I have to go in and take it out for you to see. Or you know what? I can.
Each time you can click it and it pops up and it's so I think we had started talking about the test, the cost of the testing on page 3. Okay. Yeah, so that's perfect.
Yeah, so if you just scroll those small screens to the left, then we can you can navigate through as you're speaking.
Right.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Oh. Yeah, just the problem with that is that I have things layered underneath of it. So I would have to let me just do this.
I see. Okay.
Okay, so here we go.
All right.
We'll do it this way.
Okay.
Okay, so so how to test every kid in K through 12 schools. Again, this is Concentric by Ginkgo. This is the program that they have for classroom pooling testing. This talks about this talks about how they take 5 to 25 swabs and they put it all into one test tube. And that's for $6 for a whole entire classroom. So they're saving money through Ginkgo Bioworks by using one test, putting all the same samples into one test tube, which would be contamination. So they send that into the lab or they do the testing on site. And then if you have a positive in the classroom, then they say, okay, now we need to go to the next step.
Right, because by doing that, it allows them to do yet another test, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That then tests individuals, and it costs more, most likely, right?
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Well, exactly. So they partnered with Abbott Bionex Now, which you can find those tests in Walgreens, CVS. I'm pretty sure that was a test that President Biden sent out to homes. Okay. Now, if there's a positive in the classroom, the classroom gets notified. And then for $15 for each individual now, you can get a rapid antigen test that now you have an AG rapid antigen card that has a QR code to it, and you put that swab onto that test, and now that brings up all your child's information connecting with that testing result. So they more than doubled their profit by doing this.
Right.
Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Oh my God. It's so sick. Okay.
Oh, I had everything.
There we go.
Okay. So this one is, I had reached out to State Representative Kerry Benninghoff. He's not the Speaker of the House. He's the House Majority of the Republican Caucus.
Okay.
And his office did say, send me everything you have. So I did. About a week and a half later, you can see on September 14th, I had gotten an email back, and they titled the email, Ginkgo Bioworks collecting student DNA in Pennsylvania schools.
Wow.
At that point, I was not even on the DNA. I was just like, we can't have testing in schools. It's a medical procedure. Why are we doing this in school districts? So obviously that I was like, well, I got to keep digging. I've got to see what I can find.
Wow.
So
So they found out more just by you sending it to them. They did their own research and found out even more.
Right.
Correct. And so why are they still quiet?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let me hide all this. Okay. So this is Ginkgo Bioworks. This is, again, just on their website. You can click through and scroll through all this stuff. Is this big enough? I feel like it's not big enough.
It's there you go.
Is that better? Okay.
That's great. Yes.
That's really good.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome. Okay, so this is, again, part of the Concentric by Ginkgo program. Why Ginkgo cares about genetic privacy? Because, of course, they're going to tell you that they take their genetic privacy seriously, and that who might have access to the sequences of their DNA.
Yeah.
I mean, it says it right there.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so this is where I just brought that up a little bit so you can see it closer. It says there are many reasons why people should care about their genetic privacy and who might have access to their sequences of their DNA. We take all privacy concerns very seriously, and we've developed our pooled tests with privacy as essential design principles. Of course, they're not going to say, hey, we're collecting your DNA and we're going to do whatever we want with it. I mean, really? Like, if people think that they're going to find that information, you have to dig. You have to connect this large puzzle of different information together.
Mm-hmm.
So it says each nasal swab is also bound to capture some biological material from each person, including small bits of their DNA. Because apparently small bits of their DNA is just like a tiny bit. It makes it sound a little bit better, but even small bits has their entire DNA.
Okay.
However, we have no interest, financial, scientific, or otherwise, in the human DNA that's also present in these samples. Still, we feel it's necessary to safeguard people's privacy through several layers of protection.
Okay.
So they're admitting right there that they are collecting your DNA, that there will be DNA on that sample.
Right.
So they also talked about that many companies have benefited from collecting personal information from individuals and exploiting that data. So obviously it's a possibility for it to happen. So that I will show you how Ginkgo is getting away with collecting your DNA and then selling it off to their partners, or giving it to their partners.
The one thing that caught my attention was when they said small parts, small bits of DNA, and it's like, okay, so are you collecting, the entire DNA sequence, or just parts of that, and then using computer models to build onto that from other places, that's what I'm curious about. It's like they make it sound like, oh, we're only taking a small bit, as opposed to everything.
Right.
And no, they're either taking everything or they're taking a partial sample of your DNA sequence.
Well, and that's where you have to learn to read through the fluff words.
Right.
They run you in circles, and they put all this fluff in around it. It's just like, it's your leg's broken. Well, it's just a little bit broken. Well, the bone's sticking out. It's still broken, whether it's a little broken or majorly broken. It's still broken.
Right.
You're a little bit pregnant.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So that brings me into the consent forms. And this is what most people will see whenever through their school districts. Each school district can alter it to their needs or their wants for this consent form, but pretty much they give a blanket template for the consent forms. So that's just your COVID-19 consent. And this is from Concentric. They give you a sample of it.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what I thought was pretty funny. There's a lot of information in these consent forms. So it says, you understand that pool tests of this type are not required to be approved, cleared, or authorized by the FDA. You understand pool tests are not FDA approved, cleared, or authorized tests, nor a medical diagnostic test.
Oh,
so then why are we testing?
Exactly.
So
Wow.
essentially, right there, you're agreeing to your kid being experimented on.
Right.
Because the testing in itself falls under emergency use authorization, where you have every right to say no. That's why they can't mandate this yet without it coming from the Department of Health.
Right.
So that is also why they keep us in a continuous state of emergency, because without that emergency, Ginkgo can actually be held liable for having inaccurate or having false positives. And they wouldn't be able to do this in school districts. So all those reps that just voted again on March 31st to extend this pandemic, extend the emergency, I should say, they're extending this to happen.
Right.
They're allowing this to happen.
So they either don't realize that the EUA is a money-making scheme, or they do and they're getting kickbacks.
Right.
Correct. Okay, so again, this is just Concentric by Ginkgo, authorization for release of information. This is part of their privacy policies. You hereby authorize your health information as described below, and it says you understand that once disclosed, the released information may no longer be protected by applicable federal or state privacy laws.
Okay, so this is where you get your unelected committees, corporate interest to usurp and undermine your federal and state constitutional protections, which have to do with privacy, of course. Interesting.
Correct.
Okay.
And as soon as you sign that, you're agreeing to this. So you signed into a contract with them to do that.
Wow. So you basically signed your children over to a corporate interest. You're basically making little slaves. Is what you're doing.
Yep.
Okay.
So this is, again, on Concentric by Ginkgo. Just you can see the little circle down here. That's how you know it's still their program. This is a student bulk account creation. And what that does, it just explains that when you're in the school district and you test the children, or the children test themselves, it tells you how to upload the information that through K through 12 schools, a test taker upload for non-K through 12 schools. So it gives you all the information. What kind of struck me was this guy right here, is that not only they have your child's first name, last name, email address, if left blank if they're a minor for the email address, because it usually goes to the parent. But this one, input number for child, so they want you to create a numerical system for students or use a pre-existing student ID system. So they essentially want to match your sample up with their student ID.
Wow.
Okay.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Well, how.
So if they're getting the genetic profiles, which I have a theory about that, we can kind of go over. I'm in the works of trying to prove it, but so they're matching up your genetic profile. Their possibility of them matching up your genetic profile with their student ID. It's pretty scary. You're giving all that access.
Well, so matching your genetic profile with your student ID. So what that tells me is that your student ID puts you on the pathway to, to future education, to future
employment
tracks.
The Future Skills Initiative.
Exactly. So that's really interesting. So they can track it to see if you've done the testing.
So you're either going to be a managerial class, or you're going to be, the lowly, whatever, or you're always going to be in some sort of government program receiving services that are in the business to provide services to keep you poor.
Yeah.
So
it's like 1984.
Exactly.
Mhm.
So, one of our followers who goes by undefined JB, JB says my jaw is on the floor, and so is ours. I mean, the amount of research that Stacey has done, and just the going into the deep inner workings of Ginkgo Bioworks. Every layer that she uncovers is another discovery that takes us right back to the beginning of this whole thing, which is that this has been a coordinated effort to make money off of us. We are now the gold that they are mining in order to continue to earn vast amounts of wealth. And so we cannot consent to these things. We cannot consent on our own behalf. We can't allow them to do this to the children. We are not slaves to be mined. Anyway, I just wanted to interject that.
I wanted to also, Undefined JB also asked,
is Georgia.
Is Georgia involved? But what I really wanted to find out. Yeah, go ahead.
You can find out if you go to ginkgobioworks.com and you go into their concentric program. It will tell you what states are in there.
Okay.
I think I don't know. I know Texas is. I know California. I know Massachusetts, Pennsylvania. It's more of the middle states that are not as involved. Not to say that they won't be. But yeah, you can find that out pretty easily. I think I can't remember if I put the map in here or not, but you can definitely find that information out. Okay. Yeah, I know Texas is pretty big with this.
Okay. And then also to follow up, how do the schools respond when you ask them? I thought I heard that they didn't say much in response.
Yeah, when I asked the superintendent, he did say that they don't plan on doing it. Which I believed him at that time. That was like August when I talked, or late August, early September, right before the masking mandate.
Okay.
Because I reached out to him and he said, yeah, he doesn't plan on doing that. Now, if it's mandated, are they going to say their hands are tied again?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let's go on to the next.
Okay. Yeah. So this is concentric. Again, this is all on their webpage. It's testing for K through 12 schools. So easy, a kindergartner can do it.
Oh, no.
And I'm going to show you what they're going to have the kids do in classrooms.
Oh, my God.
And this is right from their website.
Oh, my God.
Wow. They used to tell us not to do this in class.
Oh, wait. Just wait till you see what the Rockefeller says about picking your nose.
Oh, my
God. So
God.
it goes into one test tube. Everybody puts it in the same one.
Oh, jeez.
That's sanitary.
That's not.
Yeah. So, and again, I want people to understand that this isn't something that's just going away. This was from February 3rd, 2022. I mean, they're still pushing this. They're still having Zooms about this and meetings about this test to stay program and bringing in COVID-19. So I can't remember if I explained the test to stay. The test to stay program works a little bit different, which I'll pull this up. So this talks about last week, the CDC released 2 reports evaluating the effectiveness of test to stay strategies for K through 12 schools in 2 cases. These reports affirm the continued importance of testing as a critical component of layered prevention strategies to help mitigate the spread of impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. So the test to stay program is a little different. So what happens is whether or not you have, let's say, Ginkgo Bioworks implemented in your school, they want to implement this program where if there's a positive in your school district, so in a classroom, there's a kid that tested positive. If you're not vaccinated and not masked, then they will say to you, well, you can test, continue to test, and as long as you stay negative, you can stay in school.
Wow.
So it works. It's not a preventative. It's a if there's a positive. So this leads right to Ginkgo Bioworks saying, okay, well, we're going to pull all these kids. We're going to do biosecurity, biosurveillance. And then if a kid tests positive, well, this kid, and this kid's not vaccinated, not masked. So they have to do the test to stay program now. And that's probably what will be mandated is the test to stay program.
Okay.
Wow.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. So they make money out of exploiting, health.
Correct.
And it's, they're using the same sorts of language that came out of the whole HIV AIDS thing, where it's like negative means good, positive means bad,
Right.
you know, and it's really messed up.
It's so funny is I'm listening to 1984 right now, and the news speak is exactly what you're talking about, is that
Right.
the realities. So the reality of what's real and the reality of what you hear and what you're told to listen to is two different things, but it's behavioral modification.
Exactly.
Which is crazy. Okay. All right. So let's go on to the next one. So Ginkgo Bioworks, here's where the meat and potatoes are, of where your information goes to. There's a lot of good information in here. I would suggest, as boring as these privacy policies are, we need to start really reading them.
Yes.
The first line I will say in here, they do talk about it. Anytime they can change or update their privacy policy as they see fit without having to give you prior notification.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So this talks about your biological information, and I just pulled it up a little closer where I wanted to pick this out. So this talks about that our partners generate and store your biological information. Partners. So when you use a sample collection kit to submit a sample for purposes of conducting COVID-19 tests, their partners will generate and store your biological information. So, and then it goes on to say biological information with the partner's own privacy policy will govern the partner's collection, use, processing, storage, disclosure, and transfer of your partner's of your biological information. You should review the partner's privacy policy with care before you're engaged in their product. So just to let people know, Ginkgo's Bioworks is partnered with, it's over 50 different companies. So you now have to go and dig into all those different companies' privacy policies to make sure you're in agreement with that partner's collection, use, processing, storage, disclosure, and transfer of your biological information.
Okay.
And there, of course, there's no opt-out
Nope.
for you as a parent to not opt into this system.
Right.
Well, you can opt out. It's voluntary right now because they're still in, I want to call it a pilot program. It's not necessarily a pilot program, but it's kind of running like one right now. So yeah, you do as a parent still have the right to not participate in it. So it's twofold. So the problem with that is still, even though it's still voluntary, the problem with two things with that is one, kids are getting conditionally, their behavior is getting conditioned to believe that they have to test. For example, I had a mom from Pittsburgh Public Schools come to me and say that her kid's the only kid in school not testing. And she's the one, and she's coming home and saying, Mom, I want to test because I feel left out with the other kids.
Right.
And the second fold to that is that it opens the door for school-based health centers to come into the school districts, which they are pushing for those.
Exactly.
Essentially, I've made a video about that as well. But essentially, they want your kids to come in. They want to have a doctor on site where the child sees that doctor without a parent present.
Okay.
Wow.
That's overboard.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I just wanted to let people know this as well, is that when you do sign up for Concentric by Ginkgo or just Ginkgo Bioworks, you are agreeing for them to access your computer device and browsing information.
Okay.
As well. I just wanted to point that out because I don't understand why they would be able to have access to all your information, your IP address, your operating system, browser device type, external sites that referred you, external sites that you have visited just after visiting our services. They're tracking everything when you sign up for their services.
Yeah. Now, what I was getting at is, once this is allegedly or mandated, forced, coerced on people, these legal I forget the word, legal agreements or privacy policies,
that you have to sign off on,
they still apply. And so now you're forced to not read just the one, but then all the partners to really know what you're getting into. And they do that on purpose to coerce you into this just by overwhelming you with information that you cannot possibly understand in the first place. It sounds like the same kind of tactics that were used against, the Native Americans through
Exactly. I
through
was just going to
treaties
say that. So,
that
yeah.
using language that was not understood by cultures that didn't have that sort of world view or mindset in the first place, to overwhelm them and just say, well, we're taking
just
over
sign here.
but
Yeah.
you have a choice in the matter.
Yeah.
If you sign here, or if you understand this, then you can negotiate. But how do you negotiate with something
people who don't speak your language?
Right.
Yeah.
And in this case, nobody has the ability to negotiate out of this system that will be forced on them.
Right.
Well, and they also, so this is how I've read through their consent forms. So what they send out to the school districts, or what parents are signing, they're giving them what I showed you before, but they're also have, the little asterisk, or like the last line nobody reads. It says, find out more on our privacy policy. So
Right.
they're not even putting that in the consent form, that there's a possibility your information can be shared with a third party,
Oh my God.
or
Yeah.
a partner.
Wow.
So,
Right.
but they're getting around that by because it's your responsibility as a person signing that to go out and look at that privacy policy before you sign that contract.
Right.
That's where, that's where legally they can't be held liable, because they're telling you, go look at it.
Right. There's
Yeah.
always a loophole. There's always
Yeah.
a way out with these
Yeah.
corporations.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to show just that this has been in the works for a lot longer than just 2021. I can actually bring it all the way down to 2019 for the COVID testing in schools through Johns Hopkins.
Wow.
So this just talks about an article, Ginkgo Bioworks launches Concentric by Ginkgo for COVID-19 testing. Ginkgo Bioworks to build infrastructure for rapid epidemic response with $70 million investment. And I wanted to show Illumina. So this is one of their partners, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this is, you go
We've
to
come across
Illumina.
that name before.
Yeah, we've seen that name before. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And look down here, conduct surveillance.
Oh God. Yeah.
So they want to surveil our DNA under the guise of security from disease and pandemics. I mean, how many pandemics do we typically have? Or are we going to have that they need to conduct surveillance?
Well, it's amazing that they know that there will be pandemics coming up. How
Right.
How do they know?
Oh man.
Well, it was funny is let me pull this off. I was listening to the news the other day. I had never listened to the news, but it just happened to be on the background. And they actually talked about vaccinating, that people should save their vaccinations for the next outbreak in the fall. And I'm like, I actually looked at the stranger next to me. I was like, did they just say what I think they said?
Yeah.
And she was like, yeah. And I was like, okay, well, I guess we now know that there's going to be an outbreak in the fall.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And then they act, but when it happens, then they act like, well, how could we have, understood that this was happening?
Oh, well, they'll chalk it up to say, well, since we were able to conduct surveillance, and since we were able to do full testing in classrooms, we can keep you safe now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, so this is just the original, just a snippet, a screenshot of where the first thing I read, which just blew my mind, that what the heck is this thing?
Mm-hmm.
So it was the $338 million from the CDC to funds to detect, diagnose, trace, and monitor COVID-19 and prevent its spread in schools. $87 million testing contract with Ginkgo will run through the 21-22 school year. So my question is all these schools that didn't sign up, where's the rest of that money going to?
Exactly.
So did we just hand Ginkgo $87 million?
Mm-hmm.
Last I read, I think the last I read, they used about $8 million so far. So where's the rest?
Yeah. Well,
so again, here's if anybody wants to screenshot that, you can go and read the original letter. But it's the PDE, it's on their website. I suggest going to those messages to schools every once in a while and just updating yourself to see what they're sending to them.
Okay.
And then, so this is your K through 12 testing program. It's voluntary and free for schools to participate. Again, anything free there's always a catch.
Always, yeah.
So they're trying to do this, which I will say, I talked to my local state rep, And he did inform me in September that if not enough schools signed on, this will be mandated. So I think right now they're in the collective stage of the information of the DNA. They're seeing how this will play out. Once they have collected enough data, they're in the descriptive stage, I think that they call it. It's like descriptive diagnostics. So once they're in that stage where they can get into where it's predictive and know how to implement it in schools, I think that's when you'll see it be mandated.
Well, what I don't understand is why they tell you this, that basically if not enough schools sign up for this, then it's mandated. But there's not that other choice of like, well, why do we even have to go there? I mean, first of all, you don't have a choice at this point. If not enough schools, if schools choose not to do it and more schools choose not to do it, then it will be mandated. So they get you both ways, and they're not even talking to you about, well, we're working to make sure that doesn't happen.
Right.
They're on board with
it. Was just it was just hands up. Oh, we're going to keep voting to extend the emergency anyway. So it's there's either pressure, they're not educated enough to understand what's truly going on. Which again, I will in their defense, they're one person. There's a lot of information that gets thrown at them, probably purposefully, so that they don't have enough time to dig into this. So, I'm not a big fan of politicians in general, but we still need to educate them, because we need them to use their platform so we can protect more kids from this.
Right.
So I wanted go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, just for those of you out there listening, I mean, if you're concerned about this, if you do want to write to your local politicians or representatives, I suppose, then I'd suggest that you write something in a very clear manner, bullet points. Think of executive level synopsis of what's going on, instead of a very long, drawn out letter with lots of examples and everything. All you need to do is just get into the bullet points of things. So, if you need to look into how to write like a press release or something of that nature that is short and easily understandable, so that you can educate your representatives out there.
Yeah, and you can even direct them towards my YouTube video on this. So if they want to learn more information, they can go right there and watch it when they have time.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. So I wanted to go over the statement of assurances. So the statement of assurance form is just indicating that the school has interest in the program and that they're going to then become onboarding. So now they're waiting for the program to be implemented, because you'll probably hear that too, or see that if you decide to dig into this a little bit further. Also, this is on that same page where the K through 12 pool testing guidance, the testing program, and test to stay guidance. This gives you a lot of information, like a nice, good general overview of what all these are. So get familiar with that. So you're not, just diving right in. You need to have a good understanding of what those differences are in those programs. Again, this is your Department of Health. This is just showing you that they are recommending, the CDC is recommending screening testing for K through 12 skills, or K through 12 schools as layered mitigation. And that the Department of Health is in partnership with Concentric by Ginkgo.
Okay.
So here comes some money involved with this. We kind of get into the money, the next part of this. So this is a fact sheet, American Rescue Plan. So these are your ESSER funds. ARP ESSER is American Rescue Plan. And your LEA means Local Education Agency. So this talks about how LEA, your local education agency, may use ARP ESSER funds as well as other federal pandemic recovery resources to provide reasonable incentives to parents or guardians whose children participate in school-based COVID-19 screening testing in order to increase the number of participants in the program.
Wow.
So they're incentivizing parents. Now, I will tell you that through the ESSER funds, they, when you read through all their information, they're actually allowed to purchase gift cards with ESSER fund money. So
wow.
take a
Money
family.
laundering.
Yeah, right. So take a family who is struggling. They can't find work. Gas prices are up. Food prices are up. Oh, here's a $500 gift. I don't know how much it is. I'm just throwing a number out there. Here's $500 to Giant Eagle. Get gas, get food for your groceries for your kid for the month. But all you have to do is just sign this consent form,
Wow.
and have your kid test once a week.
Oh man.
Wow.
Yep.
That's coercion.
Class war.
Yep.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. So here is the contract. So this is the Department of Education. This Lori Deal, she went ahead and talks about Ginkgo Bioworks, or this is the workup of the contract with her signature on it. $87 million. Now it does say it's expiring 7/31/2022. So we have a month and a half left of school.
Yeah.
This contract is expiring. Does not mean they can't renew it.
Right.
So I'm not
So she needs to yeah, okay. I was gonna say something, but I won't.
So again, this is just a closer look at the contract. So this just talks about the CDC provided a list of potential vendors, in Ginkgo Bioworks was one of them, and a few other potential vendors, including LabCorp, Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, and the B&D Vault. Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, CHOP, that's out in the Philadelphia area. I will say those are a lot of the emails that my Philly friends, who I love very much, are sending me about their testing program. CHOP fell through in Bucks County because their health director refused to allow it in his county.
Good. Okay.
But he did get he got hit pretty hard. They really went after him and tried to drag his name through the mud because he did stand up and say no.
Okay.
I've read the emails. He really truly was trying to weigh out all options. Even masking, he was against the masking. So he was a good guy. I'm trying to think of his name. I know the doctor who pushed it was Dr. Rubin out in Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. He was really pushing for the testing, pushing for all this, talking to the Pennsylvania Department of Education, the PAIUs. I have all kinds of emails that are pretty juicy. I do share them on Facebook on my EF parent page.
Okay.
If anybody wants to go and look at them.
Yeah, just type in EF parent in the comments.
Oh, there we go. Oh,
EF. There you go on Facebook.
So here we're going into a little bit more of the money. So the big concern too is that people are saying, wow, it's voluntary, right? Well, this is not going away. There are people and companies throwing billions of dollars at Ginkgo Bioworks, like just handing it to them. So Bill Gates backed Ginkgo Bioworks for $15 billion. Our own government loaned $1.1 billion to Ginkgo Bioworks for pandemic effort.
Oh man.
So here it is, your DFC is your Development Finance Corporation. Oh, I already had those in there. Oopsie. Okay. Oh, I must have. Those are probably supposed to be deleted. Sorry, everyone. Okay, so here's your COVID-19 testing in K through 12 settings of Rockefeller Foundation. And if you notice here, the American flag with the little DNA strand.
I was just pointing that out to Julie.
So, guys, look at this.
This
the
logo.
American flag in a DNA strand.
Testing in America.
Seriously. Like, this is, somebody needs to screenshot
well,
that.
and again, that's you know, the behavioral you know, modification. You know,
you're doing what's right for America.
Right, exactly.
Wow.
By exploiting your own what you know, your own essence of who you are.
Yeah. And if you go on my YouTube channel, I have the channels EF Parent on YouTube, Rumble, Variety on TV. If you go on any of those, underneath the description, there's links, and you can find the Rockefeller. The one to this Rockefeller is on there. Okay. So here's all the people that partnered together. So you have Abbott, Quest Diagnostics, Ginkgo Bioworks, Thermo Fisher Scientific. So imagine your kid's genetic information just bouncing all around these places. And you can look up each individual group and see what they do. Yeah. So here you go. This one's for you, JP. So this is successful K through 12 testing nationwide pilot with PCR polling. So kids feel empowered to self-swab, help their community, and teach others. Swabs go booger down. You only have to go up to the squishy part of your nose. Here, JP, it's a free chance to pick your nose, and no one's going to yell at you.
Yay!
Oh my God.
So they sell it to them. They're selling it to the kids. So
that
like
okay
that poor child from Pittsburgh Public School who wants to test because everybody else is. So these teachers are, because the teachers are trying to make everything fun. Oh, you get to pick your nose today. So this little kid in elementary school was like, well, I want to pick my nose. I always get yelled at for it. So it's just, again, it's just behavioral conditioning.
Right.
Pick your friends, pick your nose, but don't
friends
pick your friend's
help
nose.
Friends pick noses.
Right. Pretty soon we might be seeing pictures of that.
Yeah.
So this is from Johns Hopkins. This was August 12th, 2019. And I'm just bringing that up a little bit closer. So Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security and Ginkgo Bioworks convened key science, technical, academic, and industry experts to meet for the national policy that can strengthen the U.S. bioeconomy. So this Ginkgo Bioworks was talking to Johns Hopkins in 2019, August 12th, 2019. Was that not before the pandemic started?
Exactly. Yeah.
For bioeconomy, for the U.S. bioeconomy.
Yep. Okay.
And by bioeconomy, what they mean is financialization of you and me and everybody else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Correct. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What do they call it? Human capital.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a human capital market. Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Yeah.
Yep. I'm learning some stuff through all this.
Good.
So CDC, again, this is just showing you their support for the K through 12 testing. All the same people are supporting it. The NIH, which I did make a video, which I think people should really watch. NIH is funding research in our schools, and they hide it in grant money. It's called the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency, and they're able to give these schools money for quote unquote COVID needs. But it's like, you're for Commission on Crime and Delinquency. Why are you giving us money for COVID stuff? Well, I've come to find out that the NIH funds a lot of research through that program or through that commission. So again, NIH is funding its advance to COVID antigen tests for schools. And also they gave $29 million in additional grants for the Community Engagement Alliance Against COVID-19 Disparities. The funding was supported by the American Rescue Plan.
Wow. There you go.
And I'm assuming that by community they mean corporations, third sector, and government people. Not you and me.
They don't mean the little guy. They don't mean you and me. Whenever you see the term community, guys, it means the corporate community. It means the government community. It means social movement organizations. It means health facilities. It does not mean you and me. It means those who stand to gain, lots of power and lots of wealth as a result of sourcing you the product. So anyway,
yeah, and that's I keep saying, we in school districts, we are supplying them with the product.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We are the product.
That's a great thing to say. It really gets people thinking differently about themselves and their human experience. You don't think of yourself as a product, but you are. Especially with this.
And
you don't get anything out of it.
Right. You get nothing in return. That's what slavery is. So let's go on.
So I just kind of broke this down because I just discovered how to make charts. So charts help me kind of work through everything to understand the flow of it. So I just wanted to break this down. So, you have your government here. They're lending Ginkgo Bioworks $1.1 billion for global biosecurity, so your DFC. Government is also giving money to schools through the ESSER funds for COVID protocols, educational agendas, and this is including COVID-19 testing. So you have this guy over here, and then you have the money going now. Hey, we have the money now to pay Ginkgo Bioworks for their services using the ESSER funds. The money goes back to Ginkgo Bioworks, and now Ginkgo Bioworks is able to pay the money back to the government because of the loan that they gave them for the Ginkgo, the global security. So you want to talk about washing your money?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It's literally like I use this term a lot, the snake eating its own tail.
Yeah.
It's this circular scam, this grift. It's a total grift.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Now I have a video. I don't know how much time. It's like 2-3 minutes long.
We're getting into the 1 hour mark.
Okay.
So
let me just skip that one. Okay. So I know everybody's heard about the whole, well, I don't say everybody, but I know on Glenn Beck, he just talked about the whole child, whole community, whole school. I've been screaming this for months now. Essentially, they want to take your entire being of your child, mind, body, and soul, and have complete control of it. And they want the less parental involvement, the better.
Look at that image. That image is so, we're really into symbolism here on this platform. First of all, what are the colors, guys? Yellow and blue. And then you've got the green in the middle. So you've got your green, this is where your green language with, the green movement will support this whole holistic control of your child. This is really symbolism is really important here. And then of course the star in the middle.
So I just wanted to say that AASA, which is another important group that people should really, really research. It's a school superintendents association. It is nationwide. They are supportive of the COVID-19 testing, so they're behind it as well. And our school district pays memberships to them. So I just want to go over the CLIA certification really quickly. I can kind of skip over the next couple slides because it just kind of dives a little deeper. But just to give people an understanding, in order for these school districts to test on site, they have to have something called a CLIA certification. It's Clinical Laboratory Improvement Amendments. And they need this to perform the COVID-19 testing, and that the CLIA quality and safety requirements to follow test manufacturer instructions and provide accurate results. This is what kind of concerned me, was that there's no limit on the number of temporary testing sites that can be listed under one certificate. So I'm going to skip over the next couple slides, but I can just tell you the Department of Health has lent out their certificate, so they jump on that. Ginkgo Bioworks partnered with Clinical Enterprises. The Allison Beam gave them a CLIA certification. So now you have all these different groups that have the certification that could have 100 schools under one. So again, where's your oversight? I will tell you, there is none. So right here, it says, a facility that holds a CLIA certificate of labor is not usually inspected, but it can be if a complaint is received. So again, who is overseeing to make sure that these school districts are abiding by the protocol, that are having safe, cleanly, areas to do this testing in? There is none, or these results. So again, us being in the state of emergency is allowing these companies to not be held liable.
Right.
So let me get this all up.
Right.
Sorry. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. You take away that liability, and they can run roughshod over everything.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is your Securities and Exchange information. I will say, if you want to find out about a company, these are so boring to read, but there's so much good information in there. Again, I pulled this one up just to show people. They talk about K through 12 testing. This is Ginkgo Bioworks Securities and Exchange Commission. K through 12 viral testing to help with schools reopening plans. And then they want to talk about that $20 to $40 billion should be spent on the pandemic preparedness annually, and that it's a meaningful commercial opportunity in biosecurity that will persist beyond the current COVID-19 pandemic. So they're not planning on being done with this testing.
Oh no.
And again, here is Let's see if I can remember what. Okay, yeah, here, we'll do this one. So this is, again, Securities and Exchange Commission, and this was on page 23. It says that COVID-19 testing business relies heavily on the adoption of pooled testing in schools. Although we make test validation results and protocols available to parents and teachers, they might not trust the accuracy of the tests or may have concerns about how the tests are performed, how samples are used or tracked, and whether appropriate privacy measures are being taken with respect to individual identifiable health information, including genetic information. Wow. And the funding relies heavily on federal, state, and local funding. So that just shows you there. This, again, is just showing you for these immunities, meaning Ginkgo Bioworks is immune. The Secretary of Health and Human Services must issue a declaration in cases of public health emergency or credible risk of a future public health emergency. So you cannot sue Ginkgo for what they're doing because there is a declaration of a health emergency.
Yeah, that's why COVID-19 is the gift that keeps on giving.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. You got it.
Corporations and governments. Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is Ginkgo Bioworks. This was an interview done right here. You can see it was January 12th, 2022. It was at the annual JP Morgan Healthcare Conference. It was Jason Kelly was the co-founder. He's the co-founder and CEO of Ginkgo Bioworks. So I just wanted to kind of pick up, let me just go to this picture because that can show you a lot easier. This picture just brings up that he talks about things that are going well on the biosecurity side in this interview. And he talks about that their biosecurity defenses are akin to the Maginot Line. And if you don't know what the Maginot Line, it was a was a border that the French had built, and Germany was trying to get across it. And it's this, I mean, it still exists today. It's just this like rock wall of fortifications. But so Germany did find a way around it. What they're talking about is how we mentioned earlier, they talked about they want to have it in your agriculture. They want to have it in medical. They want to have your food. They want to have everything covered with synthetic biology.
Right.
As I recall, the Maginot Line, the Germans went through Belgium.
Oh, right.
Yep. So they did find a way.
We have to come up with our own Belgium.
Correct. You got it. That's what I keep saying too. So again, this is still the same interview, and they're talking about DNA and using it to synthesize it and to be able to create their own. And the question was, how could people end up using these things maliciously? And that Ginkgo has had contracts with, I said, like ARPA and DARPA over the years in this area, going back several years on things like how do we evaluate DNA sequences for malicious intent.
Wow.
So they talk about this like it's not a big thing. Let me just pull up the next picture. So this was, again, still the same interview. This is school closures due to quarantines or lack of staffing. Some of our most important institutions in this country, like our K through 12 schools, need better biosecurity. Here we go. Here's the selling point. So coming to this local soccer mom who's fearful of her kid getting sick, let's play on that fear and use it to our benefit to not only track your kids, but to profit off of it as well. It was, so they talk about that they want to build a sanitation infrastructure so that so they don't have infectious diseases disrupting our society and economy, and that they should be establishing a permanent infrastructure to contain respiratory diseases in general.
Oh
man,
God.
So and this is why Julie and I have been talking about how we feel that DNA collection, this whole push lately, if you've noticed, like everywhere you go, you have to prove your identity through getting a code on your phone when you're logging into your bank account or your app to go shopping at Home Depot or whatever.
Right.
Everybody's requiring this identification, proof of identification, and I feel that DNA is going to get tied into that eventually.
Oh,
that's how.
Well, that's my theory. Yeah, that's my theory. Yeah. So in the rapid antigen test, there's a QR code on it from Abbott Buy Next Now. And on that QR code, it goes to an app called Navica. And I've been looking at the patents for Navica and for the Buy Next Now testing. I'm trying, again, I don't have the science background, so I have to Google every other word, but I'm trying to understand these patents because the tech exists where they could put a chip or a reader to pick up your kid's genetic profile off that sample. And as they put it on that slide, they could pick it up and send it right to that QR code, and you're scanning that QR code. Now you have all their information, including their genetic profile, into that QR code. So I'm still digging through, but
everything
so
points to
correct. So here again, same interview. Jason Kelly said that he'd say exposed to a new potential variant of COVID, but there's other infectious diseases, respiratory diseases in particular. We've now shown ourselves in modern society. Oh, sorry, that was my fault. We've now shown a modern society to be quite susceptible to. Importantly, as we enter the DNA age, we can more easily program biology using tools like we've been talking about today. This is also going to be essential for global security so that we are defended against malicious action. So again, we need all this information to keep you protected. Yet we can do whatever we want with that information. So it's just, again, the link's on there so you can read the whole interview. Just real quickly, I'm just going to go through and show you that Ginkgo, here's another partner that they partnered with, Infinity Biologics. They partnered with Ginkgo. Again, your kids' information can go there. Biotech firm Ginkgo to merge with Harry Sloan led a SPAC deal and $17.5 billion deal, another partner. Harry Sloan used to be the CEO of MGM. So if that doesn't tell you why is he involved in this, but again, this is just an article from California, February 16, 2022, about California storing the DNA from every baby and that there's privacy concerns.
We've been talking about that for a while. Since the mid 80s, they've been collecting DNA from babies.
Right. In California.
We're Californians, so we're aware of this.
Yes. So, and then this again just talks about Ginkgo Bioworks, how they want to take biological production of vibrant food colors to the next level because, your food has to be GMO'd. Also, for people who are traveling, who don't really want to test, but have to if they want to travel international, Ginkgo partnered with Express Check, and they can now have your genetic profile. So I'm going to go into this. We're at the end anyway. So this is kind of just summing it up, that they're going to use these biometrics, which is, your DNA, your medical information, your fingerprint, your facial recognition. They're going to be using those with the algorithms that they're collecting on your kids through apps. So schools right now are used to track our children's algorithms to determine their place in the future. That's your Future Skills Initiative. That's your World Economic Forum, your Fourth Industrial Revolution, for a more sustainable world. They will do this through SEL, social emotional learning, apps, COVID safety protocols, school-based health centers, and the technology. Oh, I did it again. The pandemic or future pandemics will be used as a tactic to collect samples of our children's DNA. They will be able to see what blood type they have, if they're prone to disease, and they will be able to match the biometrics now with the algorithms in one nice little package with their school ID. These two agendas will work collectively for a total takeover of our children. We will have given them not only access to our children's medical information, but their minds as well through the data collection.
Right.
So here's just a couple questions that I get usually all the time. The first one is my school isn't testing, why should I care? So first thing is like I said earlier, I'd rather people be on the offense with this than the defense like we were with masks. And, if it is mandated, we spent months fighting the masks in court, which we would have to do the same thing for testing because nobody's got the testing yet. So it would have to start from square one. So also, this is opening the door to implement medical interventions in schools, introducing school-based health centers. So you're opening the door to allow medical procedures being done on school property without a parent there. There are billions of dollars that are invested in this DNA company, and on the educational agendas that are being forced on us. Again, like we talked about, it's a collective collaboration to push all of this onto us, and it's really for money and control. Just like masks weren't mandated until they were. And again, I'd rather see parents on the offense. Another question I get all the time is, why is this all concerning? They already have my DNA. Well, DNA and algorithms on our children will be collected and put into one central database. It's called cloud computing. So everything goes into one cloud. So when your child's 30, goes for a job, and they find that your child, they pulled it out of their cloud and said, hey, you swabbed your nose in 2nd grade and they found that you have the cancer gene. We can't hire you now because you would be a burden on our health insurance plan. Yeah. So, and then when you're in the doctor's office or you're in the hospital and you sign that consent form to, when you're in those situations when they already have your DNA, HIPAA laws prevent these companies from going in and taking that information. So it's protected and it's under privacy laws. When you sign the consent form with Concentric, just like I showed you, you no longer have that protection. And again, the test samples will be matched with the student ID. And then what was that other question I was telling you I always get?
Let's see. So the first one was, my school isn't testing. Why should I care? My doctor already has my DNA.
Yeah.
And why would they want the children's DNA in the first place?
Correct.
That was
that's another. Why? The big question is why. So, well, one is, if anybody's familiar with transhumanism, they talk about altering humans to now become machines. You can look up World Economic Forum. I mean, all you have to do is type in transhumanism and you can find out information about it. They can segregate your child. So say, a classroom of kids that have asthma, well, now they can't participate in gym class because they're all asthmatic and they're too much of a risk. Or again, you're 30 going for a job and they won't hire you because you have the cancer gene. There's so many, it's not necessarily what can they do, it's what can't they do with that information.
Right.
So they really could do whatever they wanted. I mean, once they have that control.
Okay.
So I'll pull this. So this is my call to action. I've been trying to get the representatives to speak on it publicly. Nobody seems to want to do it. We do need to demand transparency and truth. We need to educate ourselves on Ginkgo Bioworks, and we need to talk to everybody we know about it. We need to get it out there and get the word out. So speaking of QR codes, people can, if they want to scan that, screenshot it, scan it, that takes me right to the YouTube channel, to the About Me section, where you have a list of where I'm all listed for videos, where you can follow me, where you can reach out to me with any questions. So if you guys want to screenshot that, you can.
Yeah.
I want to say, Stacey, I think it's really cool how you've taken something like a QR code, which a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to deal with QR codes, but you used it for good. It goes right to your YouTube channel, which then informs people about all of this, everything that you presented today. So, not everything that we're presented with in life, in technology is bad. We can use it for good if we know what we're doing.
We also pasted I just pasted your link to your YouTube channel into the show notes as well. So you can find those there. Yeah. So those of you on YouTube, following on YouTube and Facebook, you can follow that link there.
Yeah.
So I know that you have reached out to some of your reps. What sort of feedback have you been getting from them?
I reached out to my state rep, which is Mike Puskarik, in September, and we actually done a PSA video on this Ginkgo Bioworks. He went down for early session, and then he wouldn't give me a copy of it. He said that the sound was all messed up, so I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah. So, who knows? Maybe it is. Yeah, I don't know. I can't confirm because he didn't send me a copy of it.
Okay.
he essentially, I mean, he did seem concerned about it. It's a lot of, I reach out to him. I talked to Rick Sancone about it just to try to see get him on his platform, but he said he'll talk about it after he gets elected. And then asked me to
Sorry.
Yeah. I was like, okay, that doesn't help me save the kids that are currently getting tested and their genetic profiles floating out there for everybody else to see, or preventing anything from happening now. I get ignored by some. Mastriano hasn't reached out yet.
No,
Yeah.
I wouldn't expect him to. He only cares. Well, I'm not going to go into that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I will say I did talk to State Representative Russ Diamond yesterday, and he was outspoken about it at the beginning. He did ask me for some more information. He seemed very interested, and he did say I made his brain hurt because there was so much information I gave him. I kind of ran through the presentation very quickly. So, you know, I want these, I feel like the rep that's going to talk about this, the people that are running for governor, lieutenant governor, or even Senate, or even your local reps, the ones that will actually talk about Ginkgo Bioworks will show to me and prove to me that they're not afraid to go after the big money. They're not afraid to give us truth, and they're not afraid to really to step out in front and protect our kids. And they're all saying the same thing. Like, they have this checklist of, you know, hey, we're going to talk about the sex ed. We're going to talk about CRT in our schools. We're going to talk about vaccines and masks. Why are we not talking about the testing that's in? Just because it's optional doesn't mean it's not a threat anymore. So I really feel like the one that's willing to step out and say something will be the one that I will definitely back and support.
Okay.
So that's maybe one or two.
Yeah, maybe. Right. We'll see.
Yeah.
So I know that you know, a lot of the response to what's happened over the last 2+ years is for parents to simply pull their children out of school. And that's ultimately the best thing that you can do, is that you can remove the product from, you know, the companies that want to turn them into little slaves. You can just remove that option away from them. So remove the children from
However,
school.
as we know from talking to Lynn Taylor, that this is not always this is not always going to get you away from the system completely, because you know, they've changed the wording, the language from teachers to educators, and so anybody can be an educator, and then they will fall into under these rules and regulations that will require them to do like testing at their own home school, right? So these are things that we have to take into consideration, that if we're going to get out of the system, we have to understand that what the implications of getting out of a system really means. It's going to be
really getting out of
really getting out, you know.
It's all attached to the money. So if we can tell our school districts and our boards disengage from the ESSER funds, or to stop participating in getting governmental money, I mean, they already get our tax dollars. So, or withhold our tax dollars and say, no, if you keep pushing this, we're taking our tax dollars back. And the thing is that I know not every parent can homeschool. They don't have the resources or money. My kids were pulled. They're in cyber. I hate cyber. The idea of it is good. The curriculum is awful. There's so many things that I've had to say, take that out, that should not be in my son or my daughter's lesson today. And they do, I will say they do take it out for me. But I've realized too, I do have to, I mean, in order for my kids to not be touched by these agendas, I have to homeschool. So I will be doing that in the fall. Wish me luck, because I'll have a high schooler and a middle schooler. I don't know how that's going to go. But my goal is I don't want to stop fighting either, because I want them to have school. I want them to be in there with their friends. I want them to have an education that's not pushed by ideologies.
Or corporate interests.
Correct. Or have money attached to my child. So, and you know, I say all the time that they produce, or they create the problem and then give you the solution. We need to do the same thing back to them. Let's create the problem for them and then give them the solution. So let's create the problem by no longer supplying them our children, whether that's through tax dollars, that's through pulling them, whatever that is. And then we'll give them the solution and say, no, It's our money, our children. We have a right to say what happens in our school districts and what happens with our kids. And if you continue to push these agendas on us and continue to accept money with strings for these agendas, then we no longer will participate in your program.
Yeah.
A lot easier said than done, obviously, but
yeah. I really love how you just, you nailed it. It's like, if they can do it to us, then we can do it to them. I don't know a more empowering statement than that. A lot of the reaction and the responses to the certain agendas that have been rolled out, whether it's in the schools or in general over the last 2+ years, have been responses that come from a place of fear. And what you just said does not come from a place of fear. It comes from a place of empowerment and autonomy and taking back. So, we're at the 90-minute mark, and I just am so honored and thrilled that you agreed to come and speak with us. Your presentation was so detailed. I know that people have been sharing this and are very, and have now been made aware of something that they had no idea was going on in the background. And for that, that's, you can't put a price on that. So thank you so much for taking your time. And we're going to share this to some people that have a huge audience. And I hope that they open up their email and read this and also go, okay, we need to look at this, because there's a lot of influential people out there that could really benefit from what you bring to the table. So thank you for that.
Thank you. No, thank you guys for having me. That's all I want. I just want to get the word out. I want parents to be empowered. I want parents to understand, because our number one job, and I tell my kids this all the time, my number one job in the world is to protect you. And if I'm not protecting you, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing, what God wants me to do. So, I just want as many people to talk about it. I don't care if it's me on the camera or someone else has educated themselves now enough. Just everybody, let's talk about it.
Yeah,
I think
that's where it's the most important. It's that numbers. It's all about getting to that critical mass of people understanding and talking to one another. And I think that's part of the reason people were isolated and segregated and starting in March 2020. So that we weren't talking to each other. You isolate people and you separate them, and allows the enemy to take over without anybody being able to defend themselves. So it's a strategy that's well known, and they used it on us. And we do have to consider this to be war. It's a war on humanity. It's a war on our
children.
Our children, our autonomy, and our lives,
and the future of mankind. Basically, it sounds so huge, but it's not. What you've done is you've laid out some very tangible, reachable information so that it doesn't seem so scary. We can do this. We really can.
We can.
So thank you again.
And where can we're going to put links in the show notes, but where again are you? What platforms are you on?
Sure. I'm on YouTube. It's all EF Parent. YouTube, Rumble. I'm on Variety on TV. I have all kinds of videos about educational agendas. So it's not just Ginkgo Bioworks. I go through the CRT. I can connect the UNESCO to local education. I do a video on the AASA. So I definitely would go through there. A lot of good information. All the links are there. You can go there. EF Parent on Facebook. You can follow me on there. You can go to the page, the EF Parent page, on Telegram as well as EF Parent. So if you go to YouTube, again, on the About Me section, it has a list of where you can find me.
Okay, great. I forgot to ask you earlier, what is EF Parent? What does the EF stand for?
So I'm Elizabeth Ford School District. So EF is what we call ourselves. It was not a well thought out name. It was just, I just made it and it kind of stuck. But then I do work with two other moms. They're not from EF, but we call ourselves the Keystone Mamas. So we sound cooler than we really are, but they help out a lot. A lot of support, a lot of helping, digging, and researching, and helping each other fight this battle. So you can reach me if you have any questions or you want me to present for you. You can email me at keystonemamass@gmail.com.
Perfect.
All right, cool.
Perfect.
We'll put that in our show notes as well. Let me write that down. That's Keystone Mamas
@gmail.com.
And is that mamas plural?
Correct. Yep, you got it.
Good. All right. So what we're going to do is go ahead and sign off. But don't go away. We'll be right back with you. We're just going to say goodbye to our listeners.
Okay, great. All right. Thank you, Stacey. Whoops. Yeah, there we are.
Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that. There's packed full of information. It's 90 minutes of really well-sourced and well-researched information. I know that there are a lot of people out there that, tend to respond really well to this kind of research. So please share it around and let's get this, let's uncover Ginkgo Bioworks and defund it and stop this nonsense.
Yeah. Jane, stop this crazy thing.
Stop this. So thank you so much for joining today. We're going to go ahead and sign off, and until we meet again. There is a gentleman that reached out to us from Bloomington, Indiana. Just very quickly, what we're trying to do from this point forward, in general, is bring voices that you've never heard before. Bring them to the front and give them an opportunity to speak their knowledge. And so this gentleman is an artist. He is a cartoonist. He's created actual motion picture cartoons, and he's watched over the last 2+ years, he's watched his hometown of Bloomington, Indiana, really turn into something kind of like what we were seeing happening in San Francisco, which was really heartbreaking. And so we want to bring him on and have him discuss, some of the methods that he's used to keep his city intact and keep his area from falling prey to these COVID measures and all that. So we're just trying to give more voices to people who are more localized, and because there's a lot of people out there that have a lot to say and they're not given an opportunity to say it.
Yeah.
So
okay.
So look out for that. That'll come in the near future.
And as we get guests, we'll present them here on Pull Quote.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you so much for joining today, and thank you again for sharing.
Yeah. Thank you, and we'll see you next time on Pull Quote.
Bye-bye, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
By the way.
Yeah? What is it?
I stole this idea from Ken Nordine.
It's a good one.
Pull Quote is made possible by our patrons and supporters.
That's patreon.com/Book of Hours.
Right, and you can also join Rockfin or leave us a tip.
Oh, right. Rockfin.com/Book of Hours.
Thank you.
Oh, and thank you.